Qyjon the Icon here, and I'm sitting next to my latest art piece. This art piece came from my heart, as most of my art pieces do, so I'm here to explain it to you. This art piece is dedicated to and inspired by Candyman. Candyman is the first horror film that I ever seen in my life. I was born in the early 90s, and this movie came out in the early 90s, and this is the first horror film that ever genuinely scared me. Part of the reason that it scared me and other ones didn't was because Candyman was more real, because my mother is from the south side of Chicago. I lived on the south side of Chicago for a period of my life, and the thought of a villain who's black on the south side of Chicago who could pop through the mirror really scared me as a child. That being said, there's a reboot coming of Candyman. It was supposed to come out in 2020. It was pushed back 2021. Now it's coming out this month. And it's been on my mind for so long that something inside of me was inspired to make this art piece. I watched Candyman again recently, and it's just as incredible as it was for me as a child. The issues that Candyman was able to touch on without being too on the nose, but to be subtle about it, it's just truly, it's amazing. That being said, all of those ideas that Candyman was attempting to show you, I put into this art piece. So the foundation, these are two young children getting ready for bed, two sisters, and they're praying. And the reason this is the foundation is because Candyman was an urban legend, and urban legends are passed down through the oral tradition. The oral tradition affecting kids the most, right? Story time, bedtime. So that's what this represents, right? Candyman comes, and his foundation, his power in the movie really was coming from this folklore that he had over all the years of his existence. He had this folklore about him. So that's why the foundation is two sisters getting ready for bed, story time, they're praying, oh, I hope Candyman doesn't get me. Then if you go up into the middle, I have the Sears Tower and the Chicago skyline, but then in front of that I have Cabrini Green. Cabrini Green is where the movie was set. And having the skyline, but Cabrini Green in front of it, is meant to show the duality of Chicago, which Candyman did a great job of, right? It showed the educated white woman going to Cabrini Green, right? Chicago being, one of the greatest cities in the world when it comes to education. The University of Chicago is up there when it comes to education, when it comes to progressive medical treatments and things like that. Chicago's there, but also when it comes to some of the worst neighborhoods in America, Chicago has plenty of those as well. So this is meant to show the duality. As you branch off from the skyline and from Cabrini Green, I have images of CPD. I have images of newspaper headings from the 90s. All of this is a 90s aesthetic. I have these two young black males because the most targeted population in Chicago is the young black male. I mean, the Cook County Jail is filled with young black males, So that's what that is meant to represent. There's a lot of smaller images that I won't get into. They have to speak to you directly if you ever see this in person. So I won't go through that, but I will do a large overview of what, as you go up, what it means, right? So you start with the foundational folklore. You have the city skyline, the duality of Chicago in the middle. You have who's most affected by this system within Chicago. And as you go up, you see how the system is affecting these young black men or the black community as a whole. And then as you get to the top, you get more to the historical aspects and the historical narrative that Candyman was exposing. So up there, to the right, you have a runaway slave, two runaway slaves, and behind them you have the Confederacy. And that's significant because in Candyman, he was chased down by an angry white mob. So that's what that's kind of representing, you know what I mean? The ever-present feeling that we must be running away from someone who's trying to end our life. That's a deep narrative in the black community. Then in the middle, one of the most important pieces of this art piece is Abraham Lincoln, and he has his jacket open, and there's three black people hanging as he opens up his jacket. Because as Abraham Lincoln did the Emancipation Proclamation and all those other things, he really opened up the floodgates for racism to flourish even more, right? Because now there's no there's no incentive to not kill, right? Because we black people, we're no longer products. Or beginning the end, the beginning of the end of us being products was Abraham Lincoln. So as he opens up his jacket, it's like those guys who sell those watches from their coat, and they open up their jacket, they got like 50 watches. Like that's what that represents. And then to the all the way over, there's a young black girl praying, and I used her image because black femininity and black motherhood it has been what has sustained the black community throughout the entire American experience. Without women, carrying pregnancy to term, without black women holding down households and stepping up even when the world wasn't kind to women, without black women choosing to do that, none of us would be here. So that's why I have her there. And then in the middle, the focal point, the top of the art piece, I have a black man being hung and a white woman watching, a little white girl watching. And the reason that I have that there so prominently placed at the top is because in the movie Candyman, the entire basis of his folklore is that he fell in love with a white woman, right? Because he was in the upper class, and he felt that him being in the upper class, him being part of the bourgeoisie, him being part of the aristocrats, that he was entitled to what the aristocrats are entitled to. But he wasn't. Why? Purely because he was black. So that's why that's there, because she had to, the love of his life had to watch him being hurt, you know what I mean? Had to watch him being killed purely for their love. Well, nothing happened to her. And so that's what the collage is meant to, showcase. The foundational folklore of Candyman, the city that Candyman occupied, the people affected by the system within Chicago, and why Candyman was such a prominent figure, and then the history and the narrative that Candyman was touching on, right? The racial history of America. And then we have obviously the most prominent piece, which is the Candyman arm and the hook, right? So I built this. I had this coming out of the broken mirror pieces, because when you first see Candyman in the film, it's an arm coming out of the mirror, and I wanted to stay true to that. I thought that was it's 90s-ish, but I love that. You know what I mean? I love the movie, And then I had petrified bees glued right here on the stub of his arm, So to stay true to the Candyman folklore of the bees and the honey and all that. And this entire collage is encapsulated in a wall mirror. This is a wall mirror. And the reason that I chose to have it encapsulated in a wall mirror is because Candyman was an aristocrat. He was up there. He was rich. He was well off, right? He wasn't just, some guy from the ghetto, right? He had money. He had education. He had status. And wall mirrors and furniture of this aesthetic has that quality to it, that old money quality to it. And that's what I was going for here. I want to show, you want to give that duality, right? So this collage of 90s aesthetic and racism and all of that, is encapsulated in that older ideology, right? It's all encapsulated in that old money, right? Because old money really is the reason why all of this is happening, or one of the biggest motivators behind all of this is old money, which is people who have been rich for so many generations and so far removed from our reality and our experience that they perpetuate things of this nature. So I will stop it there. This is my dedication to Candyman. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope that I didn't lose you at any point. It definitely is for sale. It definitely is going on my website, and it's definitely something that I hope that one day you get to see in person. Other than that, you have a good day, and thank you for listening to me. It's been Qyjon the Icon. Thank you.